My name is Rashad.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Vinny.
I'm Rihanna.
And this
This is Learning Boldly.
This is Learning Boldly.
This is Learning Boldly.
Welcome back to Learning Boldly, a series where current Texas Lutheran University students and alumni discuss their experiences as members of the Black community. The goal of this series is to inform, inspire, and empower members of the TLU community and beyond to continue a movement towards equality.
This is episode 2, Black Lives Matter. 3 simple words. How controversial could they be, right? Part 1, what's really going on?
I was just joking. And so Lucky the mascot, he posts someone, or the person behind Lucky, where's the mask? He posted a picture and then I quoted it. So that's the thing on Twitter. I know you just said you're on Facebook. So it's like almost sharing on Facebook. It's the equivalent of sharing. And so I quoted that on top. I said, does Lucky support the Black Lives Matter movement? And I guess people wanted to know because they was on it. They were clicking on it. But the response, bro, he was like, whoever typed that, whoever's behind Lucky's face, he said, oh, I support any movement that our students are, it was like a all lives matters statement. And I was like, bro, I asked you a simple question. Does Black Lives Matters, does that movement matter to you? And it's not even that I was trying to like just get on Lucky, because after a while, it was almost metaphorical to what a community thinks of the movement. Because it's not just a mascot, it's somebody behind the mask that thinks like that. There's a person behind this that said, I care about what all the students, I didn't ask you about what all the students were going to, I asked you what, you know what I'm saying? And then the fact that they whoever was typing put at the end, even our students at BSU, I support even our students at BSU. Like, even, what do you mean even? Like, were they not in the equation before I asked you this question?
I didn't read it, but I was like, all right, at BSU, cool, whatever. And so, I went on because I was doing stuff. And then today, and, I started going through the tweets and I was like, whoa. I was like, what is going on? But yeah, when I saw it, I was like, nah, that's not it. And like, it made me to think about all these things. And I was like, well, if the mascot is on this kind of level, then what is really going on?
Especially, even a BLM movement on campus. And, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks.
Here is Octavia Littles.
I was talking about this with a friend, actually, that my old roommate at TLU. We were taught or kind of conditioned to believe that we were kind of in a post-racial society at this point, because it's 2004. I was there from 2004 to 2009. And I know that we're not, because I'm Black, right? And so I deal with discrimination despite, that we're supposed to be in a post-racial society.
Is there anything you would like to say to the people who don't support the Black Lives Matter movement? Here's Stephanie Womack.
How can you not? Because it's not a Black Lives Matter movement, it's a human movement. Because for hundreds of years, Black people have not gotten the focus they need. Slavery ended and America said, you're free, good luck. And it's taken a long time to overcome that. And Black people are still trying to overcome slavery and get on an equal footing with regards to education and wealth building and families and overcoming different laws that have been built into place to keep Black people down. So for somebody who says that, or the phrase that is ubiquitous now is all lives matter. All lives have always mattered. And when people say that, when they're making qualifications, when people who are a part of the movement are not, what they're really saying. And so I would just say to them, how can you not? How can you not support Black lives? So do you support the killing of Black people by cops? Do you support a cop sitting on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds? Do you support that? Because if you don't support Black Lives Matter, but you do support the fact that cops need to be changed, then you do support Black lives. The two go hand in hand. There is no separation. This shouldn't be happening. People have been fighting for years, not even just since the civil rights movement of the 60s. Before then, it's the same story over and over again. You know, something bad happens and we keep fighting, we keep marching, we get a little bit of ground, but then we don't get everything that we demand, everything that is deserved. We don't get reparations. And yeah, it's beyond ridiculous to me that in 2020, I am 38 years old, marching and fighting for justice, and you're a college student doing the same thing. It's just, I can't even fathom how we got here and how certain members of our society think that it's okay that we're here and they want us to stay here. They think this is what a great America looks like.
Here is Councilman Jonathan Randall.
The people who are opposed to it or disagree, first I would question, I would want to know, what is it that you disagree with? I want them to evaluate themselves and figure out what your issue really is, you know, because I go back to, we're not asking for anything unreasonable, right? You know, the phrase Black Lives Matters makes people very uncomfortable. You have to ask yourself, why does it make you uncomfortable to hear Black Lives Matters? You know, and you want to counter that with All Lives Matters, right? But nowhere in Black Lives Matters have we ever said that no other life mattered. But we just want you to see us in our situation and help us to get to the point where we feel like our lives matter, you know. Mm-hmm. And one thing that, you know, we could be certain of is it's not the lives mattering part that's the issue, because you've never heard a debate between All Lives Matters and Blue Lives Matters, you know. And so if that's not the same thing, then what is your issue really? Is it because it's the word Black, and it's because it's Black people saying that we don't feel like our life is valued? One of the turning moments for me in my life was Trayvon Martin. Because I literally saw myself in Trayvon Martin. And it was at that moment where I was like, you know, I have to become more active in Black issues. You know, it's so easy and comfortable to sit on the sideline and, you know, try to sit in your own little bubble and just try to just protect yourself and protect your own. But then you start thinking about, one day, you know, I'm going to have children, you know, and what is my response going to be? Because this is free now. What is my response going to be to my children when they ask me what I did or where I was in these moments? What side of history am I going to be on?
The whole movement in general, I say 12 years old I was 12 when the Trayvon Martin incident happened. And for me, it was just a turning point where, you know, your parents are forced to sit down and talk to you at that point. They're forced to say, you know, if you encounter an officer, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. You know, when you're driving, keep your hands where they can see them. Don't reach for anything. You know, always be respectful. You know, carry yourself in a certain manner. That way you can do the best thing possible to stay out of these situations. And then, you know, even my parents, they're like, you can't control everything that happens. And if something does happen, don't put yourself in a position to where they feel like they need to pull a gun on you. And if something happens, you know, we'll fight it after the fact. But, you know, don't put yourself in a position to be, you know, essentially on the news.
Mm-hmm. And that conversation in itself takes you back to the earlier question that you asked about people who don't understand the Black Lives Matter movement. You asked them if they've ever had to have this conversation with their kids, or did their parents have to have that conversation with them? You know, that conversation, that is a staple in a young black boy's house. You know, the moment they go from being cute, you know, the cute age, to being, now I have to have a conversation for you to how to come home alive, right? But nobody wants to have the conversation about the people who are supposed to protect and serve. Like, we shouldn't have to change. We shouldn't have to do everything right. Because the reality is we can still do everything right and still get killed. Look at Philando Castro.
Yep.
Did everything right. You could still get killed. So the reality is the conversation shouldn't start with us. You know, we're not the problem.
And it's powerful when you say that, because, you know, you look at any other group of people, I don't think they have to have that conversation with their kids. You know, like touching on, you know, going to a predominantly white school my entire life. I knew that when I was 12 years old, when the Trayvon Martin situation happened, and my parents had that conversation with me, who do I talk to about that? You know, you know, I'm in a class with people. Do they understand what I'm going through? Or, you know, it's just an interesting dynamic, because you go to school with these people and next door neighbors, our lives are completely different.
Here is Ryan Brown.
We still have racism. You know, as a person who's deployed, combat in Afghanistan, rockets thrown at them, the whole nine, I come back to a nation, I'm defending a nation, but come back and I'm having to experience racism in 2020. That's a sense of disappointment for me, and for many others who, you know, who are fighting for this country's liberties. I graduated from TLU in 2009. So 11 years later, I'm a father, I'm a husband. And it's that sense of disappointment that, you know, I have a younger daughter, you know, and she's going to have to experience some of these things. You know, I have a little brother. I have to give him the story about, hey, you know, when you get pulled over, I have to have those talks with him. So I think that's sad for me in that regards, in that we're having so many senseless killings in this day. And then I think it's just the last part I would say in regards to the Black Lives Matter piece is you're seeing a lot of undercover racism. I'm seeing a lot of vanilla, I call them vanilla apologies. People aren't sorry they're racist, they're sorry they got caught. So I think of the Amy Coopers of the world. I think of, there was a USNA grad in Florida who got caught Facebook Live saying some racist things. I think of Papa John's CEO. They're not sorry, you know, for their racist acts. They're sorry that they got caught and it's affecting their livelihoods. So those are some of the things when I think of Black Lives Matter movement. Is opening the lens, so people are starting to get that aha moment. But we still have a long ways to go.
Why us saying Black Lives Matter, now there's backs of blue and American flag with a blue stripe on it. And for me, I want to know what you think about those two particular things, backs of blue or that American flag with the blue stripe. And yeah, just give me your thoughts on that.
Here's Fernando Rover.
So again, I understand both sides, right? I understand the whole Blue Lives Matter and the Black Lives Matter element. I do. However, the only problem that I have with Blue Lives Matter is the sense that their miscommunication is they're thinking that we're saying only Black Lives Matter. Like they're not understanding that there was a point in time where we were 3/5 of a person. We were property. You know, we couldn't vote, we couldn't own anything. Like again, that's the part of history I think people overlook. I think they know that, but they just overlook it. And so when they see Black Lives Matter, they think that all we're saying is Black Lives Matter, like it's all about the Black experience. And I think in some shape or form, that makes them uncomfortable because again, they've been taught. Because again, I think racial hatred is learned. It's not a natural thing. We have been told incessantly, you know, all men are created equal. You know, America, land of the free, home of the brave. All that same rhetoric that has been said to us in several different areas. But then you see individuals get shot and killed, get their meat on their neck, and they're treated like just, you know, on film and on pictures. I mean, there hasn't been any other racial group within the American history scope that has been treated the same way that African Americans have. But it's like in this moment of time, it's like we have this momentum we're carrying with the Black Lives Matter movement, and it seems like a pushback almost. Like almost saying like your lives, you know,
they kind of matter, but we're gonna back them blue. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, we have the blues bag, and your movement is it is inferior to that. That's how I see it. My perspective when you curate these things in the midst of calamity in the Black community, it's like a slap in the face almost. And it's like, you know, we want allies, and we're trying to create this community of fellowship and brotherhood, but it's hard to do that when you're trying to progress and you have an opposition trying to come against you as well at the same time. As the conversations around the Black Lives Matter movement continued, they inevitably led to our guests sharing more personal experiences. Part 2, Little Things Like That.
Here's Sean Washington.
For me, you know, you've always, you know, we've always do have our right to protest, right? You know, we kind of go through that whole thing. What's the correct way to protest? You know, they always try to, well, don't protest that way. Well, that's the whole point of a protest, is that I'm doing something that you might not like to get your attention, so maybe you would listen to me. For me personally, I always try to be constructive. So like that's what my advice would be. Try to be constructive. You know, you can't turn into the angry Black man, you know, because they might already assume that anyway. So you almost have to be not passive, but just like calm in your tone of how you're talking, and understand, like, you know, they're going to try to talk over you and almost try to get you riled up. And so you have to learn how to keep that even tone, right? For me, it's just, you know, a lot of people, they look at it and they say, you know, this political statement. I simply go, hey, my life matters because I see my people constantly in the streets getting killed. Literally, my community mailbox is across the street from my house, and, you know, back to moving around at night, like it's 8:47. Like I wouldn't even go check my mailbox across the street right now, just because who might call, like you said, with playing basketball, the cops roll up, they can't see my hands, whatever excuse might be, and then boom, you know, I don't go back to my family 50 feet away, you know, I'm basically in my own driveway. And so it's just little things like that, you know, I totally understand the movement, and with, you know, Black Lives Matter, because it's a forefront. And, you know, you get the person that's, you know, the all lives matter. Yeah, I necessarily agree with that statement, but all lives matter includes us. You know, we're all Americans here. You know, we all pay our taxes, you know, type thing. So it's just like, why am I getting treated any different just because of the color of my skin? You know, we've been fighting for this for, you know, years and years. You know, Martin Luther King before that, you know, getting out of slavery and things like that. And really, when you look at the grand scheme of the picture, nothing's really changed. You know what I mean?
Correct.
It's like they would say it to your face or not say it to your face. Now I think it's just, you got this rhetoric going on where people have just gotten bolder again, and, you know, there's no shame, which is crazy because we have, you know, phones with cameras and all kinds of stuff you know, online straight away. So if you know that can happen and you're still willing to do it, you know, that kind of scary. You know, like normally, like, you know, I own weapons. I normally don't, you know, have my gun sitting on my nightstand. You know, my family's out of town right now. My gun is literally been on my nightstand for the last 40-something days since my wife and kids have been, you know, at her parents. Just because, you know what I mean? Like, it could be a scary situation, you know what I mean? And so it's just like you said, with seeing people, even though they know our cameras on them, they're still doing it. You know, like the guy, you know, with people trying to lynch him or whatever was going on. It's just like, people are videotaping and you're still doing things like this, you know what I mean? So it's like, what wouldn't keep somebody from coming in my house because they've seen me walking around my neighborhood or whatever, you know, type thing. So
here's Robert Hatcher.
So both my grandfathers served in the military, I believe Korean War. On my mom's side, my grandpa came back, visited all of his friends, all of his friends and family that scattered out of Louisiana. Literally, he just took the bus and train all around the country, and his last stop was in Cleveland, Ohio. So this was in the 50s, right? So this is before Brown v. Board, which says separate is not equal. This is before the Civil Rights Act. And my grandpa was a franchise owner, gas stations, service stations. So my mom was born in the early 50s, and she would share with me her stories growing up about my grandparents' property being defaced. This is firsthand, right? When I was 8, 9 years old, scrubbing, Grease Monkey and the N-word off of the family business, right? When you look at that, I'm the next generation. And realistically, how far can we really progress, like, in one generation? When my mom, not to date my mom, but, like, my mom was older than the Civil Rights Act, right? My dad was older than the Civil Rights Act, right? He's not here anymore, but that's crazy, right? Like, all of us know somebody who was born, like, in a country that had legal segregation. So, like, how far can we really say we progressed in one generation, since 1965? So I would say not a lot.
Here is Dante Cage.
I'd never really dealt with it personally. My parents dealt with it growing up as an interracial couple. But I was just a baby when that was going on, and so I really didn't know. But I think it was sophomore year. We were playing for our first ever. We made the conference tournament, and we were playing for a conference title. We were at Mississippi College, and I was playing, and a guy across from me was mad at me. He thought I called the ball out, and he thought it was in, and he called me the N-word. And it took everything I had not to, jump across the net and just, go after him. But our coach at the time, Coach Lehman, was right there by the court. He heard him too, and he was able to stop me from going across the net. And, he talked to their coach, and, he had my back. And that was the first real experience that I had with racism, and that was the first real time, and it was a traumatic experience, but it made me more proud to be an African American, and especially on how my coach actually had my back, and then the rest of the team was right there right afterwards, and everybody came together.
But racism doesn't always rear its ugly head in such obvious ways. For most of our guests, it presents itself in a more hidden manner. Part 3, implicit bias.
Roderick Chambers.
That's a problem, brother. So what I did was, a lot of us, luckily for the 9 of us that EOD with me, we all got through, but we had to hold on to each other. And that's how you prove that you're a true intel officer. For those 12 to 18 months of training, we did what naturally came to us. What are the stereotypes that are being talked about internally? We welcome the racism, because your racism helps us tune up what we have to do at the farm. So if you think we're all saggy pants and backwards hats, every day of training, for 6 months we had training, I wore slacks, collared shirt, suit, always dressed up. There was colleagues from FBI, DEA, all the 3 letters, they come in there with sweat, because you work all night long. When you're down to train, it's a 24-hour job. They'd have sweatpants and shorts and hanging out, and they wouldn't shave sometimes. I don't know why the 13 didn't pass. So I'm going to assume it's because of the way appearance. So I'm going to check the box of appearance. You can't cut me because of appearance. Okay, what's next on the list? That we talk with this jive and stuff like that. I will talk proper. Okay, you can't cut me. You will cut me from this program if I truly cannot do this job. Can you use the negativity of the people around you? Can you use the stereotypes around you to build a plan to make it work if you want this bad enough? And that's literally what we did. The black female colleagues going down there, we knew all the time that, I know this is a podcast, just be real with it. Your standard blonde-haired, blue-eyed, female. Oh, the instructors love them. Oh, it's okay. They can't spot surveil. They'll have help at station. They'll be fine. Your Asian officer, they just look at them like, why can't you do this? You should be an analyst. Just move over to the analyst program. Why are you here? Black officers, especially females, you just look angry all the time. Like, why don't you smile? Like, so you know, you look at those things and like you need those things to prove that you can truly be intel. Can you collect information to get what you want? My objective was to pass, to earn it. We did. And then the second objective is once you get in there, that's when the game even begins. Not even yet. Training doesn't even, for most people, training gets you in, you climb the ladder of greatness, you know. For us, just getting through was amazing. I remember at the farm, a lot of the cooks were black cooks and stuff. And so they've seen people go through the process. So we pick up, like, and they've seen multiple classes go through. I'll never forget my friend Ryan and I, we had came in one night late. It was a cafeteria, they keep the food for you and stuff. And they would save us plates, you know, and they were like, oh, you got past this stage. Like, you keep on. They would just smile. They were so happy as they seen us get through the weeks. And we picked up on it. We're like, black folks don't get past. Like, they usually cut by now. And I'll never forget just the feeling at the very end when they showed up at the big banquet, you know. And they were just, and I remember one of the cooks was like, I am so proud of you for getting through. We kept looking out for every week. And cause we all disappeared by month 4. They ain't know none of y'all left. That's it. They didn't cut y'all, you know? And that tells you right there that even the staff, the support staff knows that minorities don't get through this program. If you get through, you gotta be good. You got to be.
Alicia Jones.
We would do the Black graduation, and I know that they still do that. And we had a guest speaker that came to talk to us our senior year. We did like a dinner, and they talked to us about going into the corporate world and how we're already, you know, first of all, if your name is Bonquisha or Tanisha or, you know, what something Isha or Jamal or, you know, whatever, then you're automatically got a mark next to your name. And they talked about like how we have to go the extra mile in interviews, jobs, and anything. It's like, oh, if they say it's business casual, you need to wear a suit. Prove yourself even more than your white counterparts.
Certain businesses will put clothing restrictions on their people, and they'll suddenly pop up like, you can't wear Jordans, or you can't wear jean shorts, you know, things typically worn by young black men. But other people are let in when they're wearing like flip-flops and like khaki shorts.
Oh man, I used to run a wine store, man. And with friends, I used to joke, I sound white. My name's Robert. I enunciate pretty well. I have a really good phone, customer service voice. I got a good credit score. You'd be surprised the amount of times I will walk people through wines over the phone. They come in the store. I introduce myself again to them. They're like, no, that can't be you. I talked to somebody else. Right? You know, we still can't, not just me, but I'm 6'5". People think I play for the local high school. People think I play high school ball. I got a 2-year-old daughter, and they're asking me if I play tight end for the local high school. The only way I got into college, according to strangers, is because I can ball. I still know my ACT score. I can't let that go because, you know, that's proof that I earned my spot at TLU. Mm-hmm. But that's really just what you see, man. And basically, there's just lack of trust in the answers that we provide. Stranger says to me, hey, you play football at the local high school? No, I don't, man. Mm-hmm. No, you have to play football at the local high school. No, I don't. Sir, do you work here? I'm trying to find this item. I'm wearing my Rocket shirt. I'm not wearing the grocery store polo. I don't even acknowledge him. So it's like, if we can just assume people are providing truthful answers, a lot of it goes away. Just the assumption of good intent. But, you know, that's where these, you know, borderline racist things happen. But, you know, I think a lot of this just stems from that. And that's where all my examples come from, is just people just not trusting the answers that I give them.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't see that happen to my colleagues, man.
I think a lot of people think it that way. Just for
Right.
me, even being on campus, one night I was on campus, it was probably 9, 10 o'clock. I hold the door open for the lady. She said, "You football and basketball players are so nice." I said, "Ma'am, I don't play any sports on campus. I'm just a student here." "Are you sure?" I said, "Ma'am, I don't play any sports on campus." "I'm pretty sure you play sports. You got to play basketball at least." I said, "Ma'am, I don't play any sports." And, you know, that's just a preconceived notion in a box that people put us in, and just expect that, oh, you know, he's black, he's big, he's got to play a sport. But I'm here to get an education. I didn't come here to play any sports. So
I'm a runner, and I live in a more affluent neighborhood that there's not a lot of people that look like me. Most people don't have to worry about what they wear. I'm wearing the light colored shirt. I'm wearing, you know, I have a reflector belt. I'm running around. When I see people, I greet them, just so I'm not seen as that threat. And, you know, should I have to do that? No. But at the same time, you know, I have a responsibility that I'm trying to make it home to my wife and my daughter every night, especially when it starts to get a little darker. And it's just things that, you know, I have to worry about that my next door neighbor does not have to worry about. He can go in a white t-shirt and shorts and run and be okay. Not so much for me, because one, they're seeing it. One, do I belong, you know, in this community? And then two, you know, does he quote unquote fit the description that you see too much in the newspaper these days?
You hit that straight on the nail when you said, am I being seen as a threat? And when you said that, it was just like light bulb.
Yeah.
Like for any situation where you want to create a relationship with somebody outside of your race, it's like, well, how do they see me? Because for me, I usually have jewelry in my nose, and I don't have a lot of tattoos, but I have a few, which are visible, and so it's like, what do you think of me? Because when I do open my mouth, obviously, anybody that has a rational mind would be like, this man is intelligent. He's very articulate with his thoughts when you get to know me. So now it's like, how can we, even on the flip side of that, like, I'm looking at you, I'm like, well, why am I having these thoughts that you don't like me already when I don't know you?
And you're right. And the reason for that we haven't talked about is unconscious bias. You know, it depends on what community people grew up with. You know, they see someone with tattoos and an earring, you just, you know, stereotypes. I think it's that unconscious bias that not only affects how you're interacting, but I mean, it takes place. Some of these people with these unconscious biases are hiring people in corporate America. So they can see a name such as Ahmad or a name that you automatically think of an African-American. You know, someone comes to an interview in dreads, how they talk, how they dress.
We as a country should country, you know, schools should come to the place where we are deliberately thinking about our biases now.
Yeah, correct.
To make everybody feel comfortable being around everybody.
Correct.
Making people feel like, you know, you are you and I am me. You look different from me and we can coexist.
Correct.
We can help each other build a better community.
Correct. And you're
That's
right.
crazy.
You're right, because right now the focus is on Black Lives Matter movement, but there are so many other movements. I think of the Hispanic culture, you know, what we're seeing right now with migrants and different things of that nature. I mean, I think of the Arab community. I think of the LGBTQ community. I mean, I think what people are seeing with the Black Lives Matter movement affects so much more, because there are other movements behind us in regards to forward progression.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you said that and name those other movements as well, because they're as important, you know. I mean, as the movement's going on now, and just being aware of that, you know, there's so much work to do.
Correct.
But all the work really starts with the person you're looking at in the morning, every day when you wake up.
Indeed, the work starts with ourselves. But where does it go from there? Let's listen in as the discussion moves towards finding a way forward, no matter how slow progress may be. Part 4,
Picking up the
axe.
So, Councilman, when you think about the future of the Black experience in America, what makes you hopeful? What makes you what are your thoughts on that?
What makes me hopeful is the next generation is fearless. I mean, one thing that I've seen in my time over the last 7 to 10 years is this generation of people your age, man, they're so fearless, they're so unapologetic, authentic, and they're willing to fight. I think for me that gives me great optimism. We're gaining so much traction because of the persistence and the endurance. So I mean, for me, I just think y'all are great, and y'all are energetic, and y'all are unafraid. So I will say, I mean, obviously we've come a long way from our ancestors, our grandparents, great grandparents in the 60s and beyond and before that. But I would also say we have a mighty long way to go. If you just look at, you look at the Black communities around the country, it tells you the story, and I feel all of those emotions, it's a roller coaster effect. I'm angry because of how Black people are treated. It makes me sad because we literally saw a Black man lynched on national TV, like, and I'm fearful because that could have easily been me, but nobody ever said progress was fast. Nobody ever said it was gonna be easy. Nobody said it was gonna be painless. That's why it's like chopping down the tree, man. You just keep swinging at it, keep chopping at it. And when I get tired, I'm ready to pass the axe.
Here is J. Anthony Guillory, PhD.
In 2016, we learned, if we didn't know already, that racist white people willing to lynch Negroes is still a thing in this country. Okay, we had heard stories before, right? We know somebody that posted something on Facebook or Instagram, but no, we got to see in real life that these people are still out here and they're teaching their children this information. And we need to do things to make a concerted effort to combat those things, right? Through deliberate praxis. And if we're not, we're complicit. And it's just as simple as that.
I hope that in my lifetime, I will get to see the vision that people have for, a changed and an understood West America. I don't think I'll get to see it in my lifetime, but at least I can make it a little bit easier for my kids. It's another step. We got to run this race together, But if I can just give them one little step, which is why I'm glad they got to go overseas. And some people in the United States have never left their city, let alone state. But they've had the opportunity to know that there is a huge world out there. Languages, and culture. You know what a passport is. You know how to get on the airplane, and internet. Like those little things, I didn't have growing up. My parents didn't, because they were just. But I got him a little bit further. There's a huge world out there.
I really love how you stand on that and you keep on hitting back on it, like the each one teach one concept. And I think that's like the number one focus that I have, right? Another one of the co-hosts on this podcast, Rashad, that's where Rashad's been for me since my freshman year. Hey, Brandon, you met this person. Hey, do you know this person? Have you been here? Have you been there? And then when I get in the position to do the same thing, I'm looking back and I'm saying, okay, who's a freshman? Who's a sophomore? Who can I help put in this position? Who can I put in that position? Can you speak on just the importance of having that culture, having that unity as a people for us to move forward?
That's literally how we grow as a people, calling each other out for things that we do wrong. My spouse, we talk about all the time, things we used to laugh and joke about, you didn't know any better. Now I know better. Now our obligation to check ourselves, and to do those things. And and if you can't take that first step by checking our own selves, if we can't have that conversation, of why this is, right or wrong, or my recommendation or suggestion, or this is the methodology, can you add on to it? Then we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to continue to say, well, these generational things happen, We have an obligation amongst ourselves. Now that we both, you and I both, has a college education, to reach back and tell someone else, you have some options, TLU's out there, how to do your finances, how to choose your classes, what careers are out there. That's the importance of it. But we have to have the confidence to check ourselves. It's great to tell a young man, hey, keep your head up, keep doing it. Pass him a book. I mean, I didn't give away more James Baldwin books than Amazon should owe me money. Because why? Because I seen somebody reading and trying to figure it out. Like, hey, take this helped me out. Read this one. You may not like the author, but this will educate you, and then you branch from there. That's how it works out. I mean, it's not a whole lot. I can spare $4 for a book. That's how it works. Doing the webinars and podcasts and stuff, and just being at TLU. I've been away overseas a long time. The Black Student Union, things like that. Yeah, I should have participated. If you want to know more, if you want to know what I would have done differently, just reach out and ask. That's how it is. Open book. If I can't give you a scholarship, I can't give you $1 million. What I can give you is time. I will give you. I can give you time. I can at least do that for you. And that's the biggest thing. Time is something you can give everybody. You just have to make time for it.
Young people like yourself who are still in school, you guys are really speaking up. When I was in college, I think we were more looking to figure out who we are and how we fit into this America. You guys know who you are, and you're not willing to let things go. You're wanting to fight to make change, and I think that's really hopeful. And I think that's what is really bringing change now, and will continue to bring change.
Danielle Searles, PhD, licensed psychologist.
Some of it is externally caused, and some of it is kind of within ourselves. I think especially when we look at so obviously we have like the Black community, but then we have other identities that are represented within that community. So gender identity, sexuality, socioeconomic status, color, like so many other smaller divisions within it that I think sometimes does create little bitty factions of, okay, well, yes, we might have some people who want to speak for us, but, are the things that are being talked about going to impact all of us as a whole? So not just the, straight, cisgender, Black man, but also, the gay man is, the trans Black man. Like, are these other identities within the Black community also going to be represented, or are they going to be kind of shushed and set to the side, and we'll get to y'all later once in general all of our kind of collective needs are met. And so in thinking about who's going to really step up and lead, I really think that it needs to be a coalition of people with diverse identities within the Black community to ensure that as many voices as possible that represent, the diversity even within our community are really heard and really tended to.
I'm still trying to think of the words.
Are many words that can explain the way we feel. Or at least, me personally, I don't think so. Especially at now where, it makes being Black seem so political. It's real frustrating at times.
I feel that for sure. It's a trend now, and I wonder how many people really care. That's my question. Like, for how many people is it, let me go to this protest with the sign and post this on Instagram because it looks good on my feed. Let me post a black square because it looks good. Let me put BLM in my bio because it looks cool. How much of this really means anything to people? And I think when I see things happen, for me, it's more so all right, how can I, make change on my level? How can I affect things? And the biggest thing that I've learned in this whole thing is there's always going to be people that don't care. There's always going to be people that hate you, and there's people that is deep rooted and is never going to change. And I don't care about those people, just because that's not where my mission is. My mission is, if you see something that's wrong and you think that it's wrong, and then if you're gonna ride with me, you ride with me, and that's how I feel about it.
It's kind of hard to expect decency out of a place where we were brought to not to be treated as humans in a humane way. For me, I think it's going to come to a boiling point where you're going to have people of Black or African descent become outraged and start lashing out because of lack of justice on the part of people that have a darker skin or darker hue, darker tint, more melanin within their pigment. But in the case of Breonna Taylor, RIP, rest her soul, it's tragic, but like I said, it's like it's nothing new. It's like it's happened before. And at this point, it's kind of hard to be surprised. Like it's hard to think like, no, what? Oh my God, America, why? It's like there's no point of giving that kind of energy when you already knew exactly or suspected. I feel like the more surprising thing to happen was that she got justice for what happened to her. That would be surprising to me. Almost like a slap you to the African face. Like, your lives really do not matter when it comes to issues like this. So that's how I felt about that.
I also agree with Viddy. At this point, it's sad, but like it's not surprising at all that this turned out the way that it did. A lot of people initially, when the result came out that he was going to be charged, they thought it was going to be justice, but in reality, like, he got charged for the bullets that didn't even hit her. They hit her neighbor's walls. So like, to find out, like, it's basically saying the walls around her were more important than her own life. And just hearing that and like seeing that, it sucks. It's sad, and but it's not surprising.
And we're taught the whitewash history. We're given misinformation, and we are treated like animals in this country, broadcasted through TVs for everybody to see. And nobody in a place of importance cares to see an actual change. So like, back in days when they had slavery, they would get the biggest slave and they would beat him in front of all the slaves, almost broadcasting it to the whole plantation, that, if you do act up, this is going to happen to you. That's how I feel about what's going on right now. Oh, wow. It's just crazy how the lives of Black people don't matter when we literally laid the foundation.
I agree with you. And like, they're never going to pay attention until, there's a Black person sitting at the table with them, or unless they can see that they're losing millions and billions of dollars, and that, our community is the reason why. Because they say money is the root of all evil. And unfortunately, this place is built off this evilness. And for us to make a difference, eventually we have to get to that table. If we're not at the table, they'll never care. They'll never have no reason to care.
Like, if somebody tells you time and time again that they don't want you at the table, why try to get to it? When there's enough of us to where we can build our own. Hey, like, all I gotta say is my goal is for me and anybody that wants to be involved with me, my family, my people, just create a strong nucleus, bro, and it starts there. It starts at home. Bro, if you got It doesn't matter. If you just put 5-10 people together and say, here's what we're focused on, here's what we're going to do, that's all you can do. Because, I mean, of course, it sounds good when you want to change the world, but I got to make life better for me and my people first before we can save anybody.
Thank you for listening to Learning Boldly. First, we would like to give our appreciation to everyone that was consulted for advice or agreed to be a guest on today's episode. Thank you for your time and willingness to engage.
Then we'd like to thank you, the listeners, for all of the support you've shown us following episode 1. We are now on Instagram and YouTube if you would like to follow us there.
Next, we extend a sincere note of gratitude to Dr. Chris Bollinger for his support and guidance throughout the making of this podcast, and Taylor Collins for promoting the podcast on TLU Alumni's Facebook page.
Learning Boldly is produced by TLU alumni Nick Hayes and Adam Sweeney. Music by Nature Boy. If you're interested in supporting BSU or like to contact us, please feel free to email learningboldly@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Next time on episode 3 of Learning Boldly.
But I will tell you, just from my perspective, even at TLU during my time, there were places I didn't go at night. I had my roommate was from that area, Stockdale, and I mean, he would even tell me, "Hey man, you may not want to go to this place or this place or that place." There were certain bubbles I felt protected, but at the same time, I knew what places to go and what places not to go. So that's something that it seems even in you being at TLU still exists.